Hello children, welcome to social science class. Today we are going to learn a new chapter that is about Prashasti and land grants in history. So first let us know what you mean by Prashasti. Prashastis means it's a Sanskrit word which means in praise of. That means in praising of. So Prashastis means it's a special kinds of inscription like it has been maintained for several centuries. And what do you mean by land grants? So while they are making the Prashastis, they'll be given a land in grants. That means it's a land, there'll be the rulers or the king will be giving the land as a gift. So this is known as land grants. So just learn the Prashasti about the Prashastis first. So Prashastis contain details which may not always be true. For example, in the Prashastis is an inscription which, for example, the king or one of a king was ruling over that particular place. So he has been depicted. That means he has been represented by a drawing or by a painting that he was a powerful, brave fighters like that. But it may be sometimes it may be true or sometimes it may be it may not be true, because they will make this Prashastis to get the land from the ruler or from the king, isn't it? So they also tells us how the rulers wanted to depict themselves. So here they themselves voluntarily tell that you have to depict me as like this. That means he may not be very powerful, he may not be very brave fighter, but in that Prashasti the king itself will depict that I must be the powerful ruler while you are writing everything about me. So they themselves will come forward to tell about it. So the writers, one who are making the inscription, they will be mentioning over there. So here the Prashastis were composed by learned Brahmanas. So who will be making this Prashastis? So these Prashastis were composed by the learned Brahmanas who also sometimes helped in administration. So in the previous chapter we saw, no? So they worked as a general administrators in the kingdom, right? So as well as they did this Prashastis too, isn't it? So by this the king rewarded Brahmins with grants of land. So what they did, so as they are making this Prashastis regarding the king, so what happened, these the king, one who are ruling at that particular time, they'll be granting the land for them as a gift. So after the gifting, what will happen? So these rewards were recorded on copper plates, and the copper plates were given to those who received the land. So these are the four things happening here. That means the first thing is the Prashastis were composed by the learned Brahmanas. This is one thing. And while they are composing, what will happen? They'll be giving, for example, the king have to give the gifts, right? So the king here, he was rewarding the grants of land. That means the land full of, it looks like a heaven. So everything will be there in the land. Okay. So while they were rewarding, what will happen? These rewards were recorded on a copper plate. So here you can see in the book. So here you can see it was recorded everything. So all these things will be recorded in the copper plates. So while it was recorded to the copper plates, it will be given to the Brahmanas, one who was making the Prashastis, isn't it? So he will be receiving the land, so that if the copper plate was there with the Brahmanas, there you can receive the land. So now let us see what do you mean by copper plates. So here this copper plates, this is a copper plate recording of a grant of land. So here the grant, for example, nowadays if we want to get a home from our grandfather or from our father, they'll be giving a document like that, this my house I am giving to my son, I am giving to my grandson, like that, and he'll be signing over this, isn't it? So it's a document which we can have it in our hand to show if the government come and ask for the document. Same like that, in those days they wrote everything in that copper plate. It was recorded there, and they'll be given for as a grant of land. So it was made by a ruler in the 9th century. So which century it has been done? It has been made by the ruler in the 9th century. So partially it was written in Sanskrit and partially in Tamil. So sometimes it may be written in Sanskrit and sometimes after that it may be written in Tamil. So these are the thing happened in the copper plates. And another thing is the ring. So you can see the ring over here. Can you see the ring? So this is the ring that altogether the copper plates may hold it, isn't it? So here the ring holding the plates together is secured with the royal seal. So you can see the seal over there. So when the seal was there, then only the copper plates will be accepted by anyone else, isn't it? So that seal indicates the authentic documents. For example, now as your grandfather or grandmother or your father giving a document to you without their sign, it may not be accepted, isn't it? Same like that, this copper plate, while they are writing everything in the copper plate, so it will be hanged by the this ring. So in that ring the specific seal will be secured there, so that that seal will give you the authentic document. So here you can see the example of the achievements of Nagabhatta. So here many rulers describe their achievements in Prashastis. For example, the Prashasti of the Gupta ruler Samudra Gupta has been done this. So one Prashasti written in Sanskrit and found in Gwalior. So where it was found? It was found in Gwalior, Madhya Pradesh. It was in Madhya Pradesh. So what it describes? It describes the exploits of Nagabhatta. Exploits means the uses. How he did the rule and how he made the people helpful or anything else. So everything was explained in that particular thing. Okay. So here Nagabhatta, Pratihara king. So as follows how it was written. So here you can see the king of Andhra, Saindava, that means Sindh, Vidarbha, the part of Maharashtra, and Kalinga, part of Orissa, fell before him even as he was a prince. So he was a prince. So those fellows come from the different places, they fell over him. This may not be true because I told you that Prashasti is not always true. Sometimes they may create a story in that, isn't it? So here he won a victory over Chakrayuddha, that is the ruler of Kannauj. He defeated the king of Vanga, the part of Bengal, Anata, part of Gujarat, Malava, the part of Madhya Pradesh, Kirata, forest peoples, Tushka, the Turks, Vatsha, Matsya, both kingdoms in North India. So it goes on. It has been written about the Nagabhatta, the ruler, the Pratihara king. It was written in the copper plates, isn't it? So, and it was sealed in the ring. So it got the authentication. This is the example given which has been written in the copper plates. Okay, children. Then the next thing is about, we are going to see the different poems. So now, up till now, we saw that about the Prashasti. So Prashasti has been written as an inscription in the copper plates, as we saw, and you can see that all the copper plates will be handled in a ring, and when it got the sealed, then only it will get the authentic thing, isn't it? So then we are going to learn about different poem which has been written on the 12th century. So here we learned that Prashasti is a thing which has been written in the 9th century, and later on they did the different poem which is about in the 12th century. And how they wrote the poem? They wrote that particular poem in a long Sanskrit poem, and it was found in it was from the 12th century. So what was the content of a different poem? About the history of kings who ruled over Kashmir. And this was composed by an author named Kalhana. So he used a variety of sources like inscription, documents, eyewitness accounts, and early histories. So by this, she made a variety of sources for the different poem, right? But this poem was different from Prashastis. Why? So what is the difference between the poem and the Prashasti? Why? Because the author was often critical about the readers. So here, for example, Prashasti, we know that which was written about the ruler will not be true. That won't be true, isn't it? Because they themselves come forward to describe about the kings, isn't it? But here, the poem, while they write the poem, they'll write the authors was often critical about the faced by the rulers and the policies in the poem, right? So just see, take page 20 in your book. So what was given with the land? So as we saw, the grand lands have been given for the one brahmanas, isn't it? So what are the things we can see in the land? So this is the part of a Tamil section of a land grant given by the Cholas, that or we have demarcated the boundaries of the land, boundaries of the land by making earthen embankments. What do you mean by earthen embankments? For example, if they want to build a dam, on certain periods they have to lock the dam, right? So they have to put a block over there, so that there'll be sometimes they may open the dams, and sometimes they have to lock it, or they'll be building a great wall, like, so that no one can enter inside the land without the permission of the particular person, right? So as well as by planting thorny bushes, so all over the place it will be planting so many thorny bushes so that nobody can enter into it, right? So this is what the land contains. What are the things it contains? What are the things it may contain in the land? Particular thing is about fruit bearing trees, water land, gardens and orchards. Orchards means flowers, different kinds of flower trees, wells, open spaces, pasture land. Pasture land means it's about a greeny area, okay? The village. So here you can see the land which was given by the king for the brahmanas. It include a village also, ant hills, platforms, canals. Canals means you all know, the running water. Then ditches is also named like canals. Then rivers and slit-laden land, that means full of the watery level. It look like seashore, okay? Then the tanks and granaries. Granaries means it's like in the olden days they'll be storing the grains in one particular place, isn't it? So that it will be safely kept in one place, so that named as, nowadays we are telling as storeroom, like, so in those days we'll tell it as granary. So in that particular place they'll store the grains. Then fish ponds, beehives and deep lakes. So he who receives the land can collect the taxes from it. So here one who receives the land, so one who is having the land can collect the tax, whoever using it, okay? So he can collect the taxes imposed by the judicial officers as fines. So they can collect the taxes as a fine, it seems. So if anybody enter without the permission means they can fine them. And the tax, how they are collecting, they'll be collecting by the betel leaves that are oven cloth as well as on vehicles. So he can build large rooms. So whatever else he can do, he can build large rooms with upper stores and made of baked bricks. That means we all know baked bricks. So he can get large and small wells dug. So he can do whatever he want in his land. So he can plant trees and thorny bushes. So if necessary, he can get canals constructed for irrigation. He should ensure that water is not wasted and that embankments are built. So here, so that the water may not be wasted, what they'll do, they'll build the embankment so that the related time they can leave the water. So these are the things which are included in the particular land, which has been given by the ruler to explain when they are explaining the Prashastis, and it was given for the brahmanas. So today's chapter we learnt about what do you mean by Prashastis, right? We learnt about the Prashasti and the land grant. So here we learned that Prashasti is a Sanskrit word which means in the praising of, and here we use, it's an inscription about the ruler, and we learned what are the things it contained and how it was composed, and what are the things can be given for them, and what are the things included in the copper plates, and how it has been declined for the users. And we saw about the achievements of Nagapata from the book. And we saw how the poem later on from the 9th to 12th century, after the 11th century, in the 12th century they started writing a poem, but it was true. So the difference between the poem and the Prashasti means will not be true all the time. may true, sometimes it may, and they'll be including something because they have to get the land from the ruler. But here, while they're writing the poem, everything will be correct. So this has been done in the 12th century. So this is the main thing, difference between the Prashasti and the poem they have written. So here they used, what are the things they used? Sources means it's a thing used for writing poem, is about inscription. They use the documents. They use the eyewitness accounts. For example, if the ruler have won the war in certain place, means that will be the eyewitness. So in my view, it happened. So like that, and you can write it about the earlier history. So like that, they'll be writing the poem in the. They wrote the poem in the 12th century, and this is what the difference between the Prashasti and the poem, because the author was often looking for the critical thing which has been faced by the ruler, and it was written about the policies in the poem, right? But in the Prashasti, when you take into it, something will be true and something may not be true. So kindly copy these notes in your homework site and just learn these points. So this will be helpful, whatever questions have been asked in the examination. Thank you, dear children.